Today's Talk About It Tuesday question is, economic analysts are sounding the alarm that the average person could soon be facing serious financial challenges as the economy seems to be in a decline. What are some things that the average person can do to prepare now for what seems to be an impending poor economy? Well, I guess the first thing we have to do is determine, is there any truth to the person's analysis that there are warning signs of an impending decline in the economy? And I would say absolutely yes. We're seeing higher prices on consumer staples, which means people are able to buy less of the things that they need because the prices are going up. Interest rates are still high, which means borrowing is challenging and expensive, which means people aren't able to buy as much house or use as much credit as they could in the past. The unemployment rate is steadily climbing. Businesses are either failing to expand or actually downsizing, as you know, we see the tariffs impacting them. Consumer confidence is declining, so people are buying less, so businesses are not expanding. We're seeing all the bells and whistles and red flags and flashing lights that signal a terrible economy. So if you aren't experiencing it already, which most people actually are, if you go to the grocery store, you already know, you will soon feel the impact of a declining economy. So didn't use the word recession because recession is really an economic term, but if you feel the crunch of the economy, if you're able to get less for the same amount of money, if you have no security in terms of employment, if your investments are impacted, it's a bad economy. So yes, we're on the cusp of what looks like a terrible economy soon. So I don't think all hope is lost because even in a terrible economy, there are opportunities, but you have to position yourself well to be able to withstand the impact of a bad economy and then to be able to take advantages of the opportunities, the unique opportunities that a bad economy presents. So what's the first thing? I always say you need to have an emergency fund, but you need to expand your emergency fund because some people rely on credit or borrowing to help them in an emergency. In a bad economy, it is much more expensive and much more difficult to borrow. So saving for a rainy day, and rainy days seem to come when the economy is bad. So you need to expand your emergency fund, but not only your emergency fund. I say cash is king in a poor economy. So you need to start increasing your savings. And I would suggest, since interest rates are already high, you take advantage of a high yield savings account. You can do an online savings account and get probably about 4% right now interest on your money. So start stacking that cash up. You need a big cash reserve. And what's the cash reserve for? Not only an emergency, but later on, asset values will decline. So you'll see opportunities to buy stock in companies that are undervalued. You'd be able to probably pick up some real estate because it'll be sitting on the market if you have cash, right? So there are assets that will be undervalued. People will lose assets or have to be forced to sell assets, and you can swoop in and buy them at pennies on the dollar if you have the cash. So start building up a cash reserve. That's one. Cut down on, in order to do that too, start cutting down on non-essential spending. So does that mean you don't go on vacation? No, it means you change your vacation. So instead of going to Paris, maybe you go somewhere closer or local. Start buying in bulk, start looking for sales, stop eating out so much and stop, ordering food to be delivered, right? Start saving up that extra cash to build a cash reserve. So start cutting all the non-essentials. Non-essential spending, don't do it. Again, it doesn't mean you don't have entertainment, but you change your entertainment. It doesn't mean, you don't go on vacation. You just change the nature of the vacation or the location of the vacation. I would say 3 Oh, this is important. Pay down high interest debts, because if you lose your income and that interest accrues, you'll be in trouble. So if you can now, start knocking out the high interest debts, and important, don't take on any new unnecessary debt. So don't use the credit card and carry a balance. Don't buy a new car right now if you don't have to. Don't finance anything, especially since interest rates are high right now. Don't take on any new debt, and start knocking down all the old debt, especially the high interest debt that you're carrying. I would say adjust my investing, because we know what happens in a bad economy. The stock market tends to come down, real estate values tend to come down, interest rates are high, right, to curb spending. So interest income will become king during a bad economy. So start getting into things that create interest. And I would say, again, having that cash reserve, so when the stock prices go down, when real estate goes down, you can kind of swoop in. But be well diversified, right? Don't have all your eggs in one basket, so you don't have to ride out the lows during the bad economy before it comes back. I would say also adjust your income streams and try to diversify your income streams, because if you lose your job, right, it'll be hard to get employment somewhere else. So you get your side hustle on, or your your business startup, rental income, whatever income you can get. Start getting well diversified, uncoupled sources of income, so you can start again stacking that cash up, because cash is king. I would say also adjust your mindset. I don't, it feels bad because it's unfamiliar, but there are great opportunities in a down economy, right? Like I said, all assets go on sale. Pretty much all assets go on sale. Interest income goes up sky high. If you make yourself resilient by doing the things we talked about, and then have that extra cash to be able to take advantage of the opportunities. A lot of people will be going into foreclosure. A lot of people will be filing bankruptcy. So they have to dump all their assets at pennies on the dollar. You can swoop in and take advantage. So you can't wait until it happens. You got to start now, because it's hard to tell exactly that tipping point when the economy, when things go off the cliff. And you can't wait until you're falling off the cliff to try to, do things to save yourself. So start doing these things right now. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you prepare. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the red flags that you're seeing now. But please like, share, subscribe, keep the questions coming, and I'll see you next Tuesday.